Hello everyone! My name is Jana and I am a music education student at Brandon University who plays the clarinet. This is the second video of my video series for clarinet players. This one is geared for beginner clarinet players again, specifically clarinet players in their second or third year of playing. This video will cover a long tone exercise, crossing the break, scales and tonguing, dynamics, and I'll play some songs for you at the very end. The key areas that we will cover in this video are concert E flat and concert B flat. Let's get our instruments ready to go and start making music together. Alright, so once you have your clarinet set up, it's time to put on our reed. I just want to quickly go over some reed putting on tips with you. So make sure your reed is nice and moist. And then you can take off your mouthpiece, your barrel, and your ligature. When you put on your reed, you want to make sure that the rails of the reed, which are the sides, line up with the rails on your mouthpiece. We don't want our reeds to be put on crooked because that will affect our tone. So you want to make sure that the rails are all nice and lined up. And then the next thing that you want to make sure is that you have a tiny sliver of black at the top of the reed, so that you don't want your reed to be too high and you don't want it to be too low because then you'll lose air. So make sure that you have a tiny sliver of black at the top of your reed, or at the top of your mouthpiece. And then when you have that, carefully put on your ligature. So it should look something like that. I have a tiny sliver of black at the top. Some quick tips on setting your embouchure. If you need more help with setting up your embouchure, go watch video 1 that's geared towards earlier years players, but it has some great tips about setting up your embouchure in it. So to set up your embouchure, flatten your lips as if you were putting on lip chap, and then say E, oo, and that's what the corner should look like. E, oo, and that's how it should be set up. You want to rest your top teeth on the top of your mouthpiece so that it's stabilized, and slightly your bottom lip is slightly rolled over your bottom teeth, and then and that's how we set our embouchure. Try to keep your cheeks forward and in. We don't want puffed cheeks because it really affects the tone of how we're playing. So now that we have our instrument setup, we've talked about our embouchure, we're ready to start a long tone exercise to get the air moving in our body. So now that our instruments are set up, we're ready to do a breathing and long tone exercise. So this long tone exercise I've adapted from a breathing exercise that I do, where you breathe in for a certain number of beats and then you sizzle out for a certain number of beats. So if we were doing breathe in for 2, breathe out for 4, sizzle for 4, it would go like this. 1, 2, just like that. So we're going to take that exercise and use it for the first 5 notes of concert E flat scale. We're going to start on the first note, which on clarinet is F. So either your thumb or long F with the pinky. And we're going to play this do this exercise. Ready? 1, 2. And then we're going to go up the scale. Open G, or 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. A, or 1 and 2. A key or 1 and 2. This one here is our A key. 1, 2. And then B flat, which is either our pinchers here or our pointer finger. 1, 2. And then our C, which is either middle C or C with the pinky, the same fingering as our low F. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, pinky. 1, 2. And that's how we do that exercise. One way that we can change up this exercise and make it a little bit different is to use dice. So we can take 2 dice, one being, this one will be how long we breathe in for, this one will be how long we play out for. So I roll the dice, We're going to breathe in for 3, roll this one, play out for 1. And let's do it on our F, our first note of that scale. Ready? In for 3, out for 1. 1. And we'll roll them again, see what we get this time. In for 4, out for 3. 1, 2. Now, when you're doing this long tone exercise, you want to be listening to see if you have enough air to get all the way to the end of whatever you rolled or numbers you picked. And you want to see if your tone stays even or if it has waves. Ideally, we want it to be as even as possible. Now, you can add one more element to this exercise by adding a third dice, which you will roll as to be what note of the scale you play. So it'll go up to 6. So our 6th note for concert E flat is D, which is either 1, 2, or high D, clarion D, which is 1, 2, 3. So let's roll and see what we come up with. So we're going to breathe in for 1, play out for 2, and we're going to play the third note, which is A. So either this A or this A. So ready, in for 1, out for 2, play the third note. 1. Just like that. So if you have dice or if you have cards at home, whatever you have, you can add some variety to that activity so it's not so redundant every time. Next. So crossing the break is arguably one of the most challenging parts of playing the clarinet, especially as a young player. So in case you need a refresher on what it means to cross the break, or in case your teachers use a different term, crossing the break is when you go to play notes like your C and your B. And it gets particularly hard when you have to go from something like open G to a C. And when you have to do it quickly, you can squeak like I did just there. So some tips that I have for you to help you cross the break. I have 3 of them. The first one is when you're practicing your scales, practice them from the bottom or from the top down so that you're starting on your break cross notes. So say you were playing a concert B flat scale, which we'll do later in our video, start on your concert B flat or your C and then play down. As when you do it that way, you don't have to worry about putting fingers down because it's easier to lift your fingers up than it is to put them down like what you have to do when you go up the scale. Another thing that you can do that might help you in music is you can actually, when you're playing your throat tones, and your throat tones are your F sharp, your G, your A, your B flat, your G sharp, you can leave this hand down. So it can stay and it doesn't really change the pitch or the tuning of the note. Sometimes it actually helps it. So say I have an open G. That was without the hand down. And then when I put my hand down, so it doesn't really harm you to have it with that hand down. It's actually super helpful and it helps the tuning as well as your fingers. So then say I had to go from a G to a C. And you can do that for G, so open G, A, F sharp, B flat, your pinchers, or G sharp. You can do it for any of those notes up there. You can leave that hand down, which is super, super, super helpful when you're making those jumps. The other way that you can practice or assist with crossing the break or practice it is to do what we call register slurs. So remember that low F that I showed you in our warm-up exercise, which is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and the pinky. If you play that note, it should sound like that. You need lots of air to play that. It should sound like that. And then if you add your register key, which is this one here at the back, to it, it will jump it up to the C. So. So that's an easy way to do it because you don't have to worry about fingers moving or anything like that. And you can practice that with both your B and your C and other notes as you begin to learn those notes. So those are some great ways to practice going over the brain. It's not something that's very easy. So be patient with yourself, take time and practice it, and you'll get it eventually. All right, so now we have to talk about something else that's super important when we play the clarinet, and that's tonguing. And tonguing also can be really tricky. So when tonguing is how you articulate a note. So if you don't articulate a note, it will sound like this. Or that could be articulating it with your air. When you articulate it with your tongue, it sounds like this. Can you hear the difference? So it has a cleaner start. So when you tongue, I like to think of it as my tip of my tongue touches the tip of my reed. So maybe just take your mouthpiece and your barrel off and we'll just practice this together. So tip of the tongue to the tip of the reed. So you don't want to tongue down here because that doesn't work. You usually end up squeaking because you end up having too much mouthpiece in your mouth. Tip of the tongue to the tip of the reed. So you want your tongue to be light and it's kind of bouncy. So you can think of saying two if that helps for you. As one way of practicing your tongue. So I recommend practicing it just mouthpiece and barrel because then you don't have to worry about your fingers and everything else. And then you can try to do, so let's do quarter notes. And then you can do eighth notes. 16th notes, which are ticka, 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 ticka. Or if you do 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. So your family might not like it, so don't do it all the time or do it for long times or play as loud as you can. Sometimes you can even just put your hand on the bottom and just practice it. You'll be able to feel it because of the air. So that's another way that we can practice tonguing. For today, we're going to practice tonguing on our concert B flat scale using the entire octave. So start on C and then we're going to go up. So to begin, we're going to start with playing it in quarter notes. So that'll sound like this. And in case you need a refresher on that B and that C for fingerings, here it is. C and B. So B, C. So now let's play it together and we're going to play it starting on the top like I suggested to help us with the break crossing. So 1, 2, here we go. So you might find that easy because you only need to tongue one note at a time. But you want to make sure that it's crisp but light at the same time, which I know is super contradictory. So now to add a little bit more challenge, we're going to tongue 2 eighth notes on every note. So that'll sound like this. So 1 and 2 and. So let's do that together starting on the top note again. And then if you want to take it for a little bit of an extra challenge, you can try to do 16th notes and they would go like this. Notes are harder because you want to try to keep your tongue nice and even throughout it. So try that. You can play around with different scales. That was concert B flat. You could do the same thing on the first 5 notes of concert E flat. You could do it on whatever. All right, so there's one more thing that I want to talk to you today about before we get to go and play some songs together, and that's dynamics. So any of the activities that we did today, you can add dynamics to them. Generally, I've been playing at what I call a mezzo convenient, so mezzo forte or mezzo piano level, but you can work on playing them really quietly, really loudly, in the middle like we did today. So let's take our quarter note tongued concert B flat scale from the bottom C, so from this C, and try to play it piano. So piano's quiet. When we play quiet, that doesn't mean we reduce our air. We still need lots of air and lots of momentum. We just back off on our volume. So let's try that. 1, 2. So that would be a quiet dynamic, a piano dynamic. So I didn't back off on my air at all. I still was keeping it going forward, using my diaphragm to help me push the air, but I just brought my volume back. So I thought softer and played softer. So now we can do the same thing playing forte. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's it, forte. What we need to remember when we play forte is that we don't play outside of our best tone. So you might have heard your band teacher talk about blasting, and that's not playing forte. That's not playing within our best tone. So on a clarinet, you can blast, and it doesn't sound good. It kind of sounds like this. And if that's how you have to play to get loud, don't worry so much about playing your dynamics as you need to worry about using your air and playing within your best tone. That is most important for you as a beginning clarinet player. All right, now it's time for one of my favorite parts of these videos and where I get to share music with you. So today I'm going to play a Simple Gifts melody, which uses some lower notes on the clarinet, so G, and it uses, I think that might be it, just G. Oh, B as well, and yeah. So here is Simple Gifts for you. So that's Simple Gifts. You might know it as a shaker melody hymn. It's one of my favorite pieces. So I will put that in a link below so that you can play it with me. All right, the next piece I have for you is Over the Rainbow from The Wizard of Oz. This piece works on, again, some low notes, our B and our A, but more importantly, or just as importantly, it works on our C's. So it works on going from C to C. So that might be tricky right now. You might have to practice it, but it's a great way to practice that break crossing. So here we go. also put a link for Somewhere Over the Rainbow down below. This is a great piece to add dynamics to work on your legato tongue and your do, 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 or your two. So that's all for today. Thank you for coming and making music with me, and I hope you learned something, and I'll see you again soon.